Hello, everyone. You're watching Speak Your Mind with Dr. Ryger. I'm Neza Alawi, founder and CEO of Join Mayshad, the New York-based company that empowers women on a daily basis. I'm here today with Dr. Risa Ryger, our clinical psychologist and investor at Mayshad, and our guest today is Ania Schwartzman, founder of the Fashionologist. Welcome to September. Today's theme is perceptions. We have ourselves and others through the lens of fashion. Dr. Ryger, hello.
Hi, Neza. How are you?
Great, thank you. Could you please take us today, as we're starting September, through some exercises? I feel we've been spending the summer in front of a screen, and we're probably going to spend the fall in that same situation.
I would love to do that, and I've experienced it myself. We are in a spot and we stay put, which is so different than how we usually work. And so while you're sitting, you don't even have to move. Even if you have a minute in between meetings, that this is something that you can do, use it to help you regroup, reset, and ready yourself for the next moment. So let's do this together and welcome everyone. So put your arms at your sides, put your hands and fists. Bring your shoulders up to your ears. This is the scrunch crunch. Bring it up, hold, take a breath. Hold your breath. And when you exhale, let everything go. Let's do it just one more time now that we've gotten the hang of it. So arms at your sides. Feel your arms near your ribs. And put your hands and fists. Bring your shoulders up comfortably towards your ears. Take a breath in. Hold. And gently exhale as you bring everything down. And one of the reasons why this exercise is so helpful is because oftentimes people just say, relax, relax, relax. And sometimes it's really hard to just relax, even through breathing. So that when we exaggerate our constriction, that it then gives us that release. And remember, on the exhale, try to keep your exhale slow and steady, so that your body signals to your brain that you're really in a place of safety and you don't have to revert to shallow breathing. In this way, you ready yourself for your next meeting, your next moment, gives you a chance to reset, takes you this amount of time, and so that you're all in for the next time when you absolutely have to bring all your best.
Well, I can tell you, I already feel much more relaxed and much more fresh. In our new world of constant digital communication, Zoom rooms, and being hyper plugged in, how are you standing out? Do you exude authenticity and innovate spirit, trustworthiness? Do you look and feel fresh, relevant, and current? In this episode, we will explore the intersection of psychology, fashion, and transition. It's time to fall forward into autumn. So, Dr. Ryger, normally a time when summer comes to a close, school starts. Here in New York, we kick off the US Open and Fashion Week. And this year is going to be different. Obviously, on so many levels. I can experience it with the school starting with my daughters. But I think we're all looking forward to having this year's fall represent change. How can we make that happen when those pieces that are usually in our calendar are not there? How can we create that transition into fall?
Well, one of the ways that you can do that is when you think of fall for yourself, to pick out, this is an opportunity for choice as well. So pick out the thing that is really meaningful to you. What is it that you like about fall? What may be giving you, it's a hard word to use at this point because there's so much transition and it's not what it was, but what is it about fall that would be a happy thing for you to do, a happy moment for you to look forward to? Is it something about buying a new piece of clothing or connecting with someone, shifting your food, buying school supplies for your children, getting them ready for their first day of school outfit. And so fall is a moment where we get to kind of begin a new chapter, as you say, Neza. And it's going back to, for many of us, but it's going back in a very different way. And as such, you can choose how you want to portray yourself in what you're wearing, how you're feeling about yourself, what is the messaging that you want to communicate, and that it can also be a space of a little bit of fun. And that as we're doing this and re-entering in a cautious and conscious way, that it also doesn't mean that we can't bring a liveliness and some aspects of happiness to that, because we're also going in with a hopefulness as we enter and re-enter in this different kind of way. So think about, what did you like about fall? What did you like about this? And whatever that may be, make it happen for yourself and for whoever you're with.
So to rethink of our past falls and what were 3 to 5 things that are specific to fall that we're used to doing ourselves, with our family, with our friends, and make sure to reintegrate them. Because I like what you're saying. It's true that a lot of people will feel that this fall is different, but they might even give up on the idea of fall because they just think, oh, it's not like the other falls, when they can realize that actually the most important things that they like to do, they can actually do them differently, but they can do it. I like that advice. So, but there is also that part on how we show up to others, and I love Dr. Ryger always the link to psychology and how is it important to us to keep that coming back to school for the younger generation or to office, even if it's done differently through Zoom. Can we pamper ourselves a little more and come back to a fall attitude of, hey, I'm back. I'm in front of my screen, but I'm back to something new. How important is that for us on a psychology level?
One of the things that we know is that this has been a time of stress. And alongside the stress, here we are at this beginning, and we have choices to make. And so each one of us can really take a moment and try to find something about how we bring, and something that we've mentioned and I've talked about before, authentic positivity. And that your authentic positivity can live and breathe alongside of concerns. And so who you are and how you show up for authentic positivity for yourself, because it has to be true to you before it can be true to anyone else, for yourself, for your team, for your friends, for your family, and that people who look towards you to see, how do I need to gauge myself emotionally? What is it that I should expect? And so when you can connect with yourself and find that space wherever it may be in you, so that you can connect with some optimism, so that you can feel some hopefulness, because we really do need that. And so how you show up with that, you can show up with that in your facial expressions, in your makeup, as we talked about last time, and also in your clothing. What is it saying about you? What do you want it to say about you? What do you want to communicate? And so being on this show, Neza, we have an opportunity each week to think about, well, what am I feeling and what is it that I want to communicate? What is it that I'm putting on that gives me that comfortable feeling? Like, this is what feels good. And we were talking a moment before, and I remember one of my daughters, when she was very little and we would go shopping together, that she would say, "Oh, mommy," she'd look through things and she would go, "Oh, mommy, this is just right for me." And that it's an interesting experience when we look at things and we say, this is me and this is not me. And it's interesting how we can feel connected or disconnected. So at a time when there's so much more upon us, there's so much more that we need to think about, and very importantly so, that we can also pull into our lives what's also, oh, that's me, that we get to pick ourselves up, we get to retrieve ourselves, we get to connect with these different pieces of ourselves and bring that with us as we, fall into fall, as we fall into September, moving forward, and that we really don't need to leave pieces of ourselves behind. And neither do our children and our families, even though it may not look the same. But we need to be at the forefront of that with our own experience and our own determination to be able to be helpful to those around us.
The authentic self that you're referring to, I remember in the early days of COVID, we were all very careful about how we show up on Zoom. Now, 5 months later, we are more relaxed in our appearances. Yesterday, I was in an airplane and the flight attendant had gray hair roots and then colored hair. And she looked beautiful. She had curly hair. She was claiming herself, her authentic self. And I thought that was amazing, but that is such a post-COVID attitude. And we're seeing those changes happen. So let's talk about companies and predict a little bit how companies will want their employees to show up now that fall is here. Meaning, should we be more concerned now with how others are perceiving us online? We know that appearances is so vitally important when it comes to the business life.
It's another way of thinking. And as we shift from summer mode, which is more relaxed, and, companies had, more casual days, into the fall. And for some reason, the fall brings its own seriousness with it. And so how do you want to show up? I mean, is it still, some sort of like nice t-shirt and a baseball cap on a meeting? And has the company culture changed in that way? And so what is acceptable? What is not acceptable? And also, what is it that we want to communicate? And that piece is very important. And so when you're in a serious space, how do you communicate your own gravitas? How do you communicate your seriousness? And seriousness doesn't have to be dour. It doesn't have to be stern looking. It doesn't have to be dour. It doesn't have to be rigid. But that we're here and we mean business. We're here and we're ready. Just because this is happening to us doesn't mean it has undone us, that we are on the ready. We're all in, we're ready to go forward. And that we've also had these months to figure things out, to get more comfortable with this experience, to be here just as we are here today in this virtual world. This has become part of our world, and we don't know if this will be partially how it goes forward, going forward. And so we've developed a comfort and an ease, and perhaps our own style along with it. And so we can go into fall really with more confidence as we've practiced being on calls, as we've practiced, we've done it. We've had our better days, we've had our worst days. We've had animals walking through our screens. We've had children crying in the background. We've had noises. We've had workmen. I had a tree fall down outside my house. There are people mowing lawns. There are garbage trucks. That it's not just being in a meeting room where there's absolute quiet, that we've expanded our experience. And so how do we take the best of that intentionally, actively, with decision-making of what we want to do and how we show up with who we are going forward at this juncture?
Yes, I relate to what you're saying, Dr. Ryger. And I think it's not about the style, it's more about showing that there was a preparation, out of respect. I didn't just show up without preparing myself to this meeting. And so at Bayshide, we do have that culture as we're serving other successful women, other women who need our support, and we're moderating that connection between them. And I feel that them knowing that we care about them by preparing ourselves to show up in front of them is important. But we're keeping it in our authentic space of being ourselves, and with the diversity of the different looks that we can have depending on the moments of the week and month. And another part that is very dear to us at Meshat, and Dr. Ryger, you're part of this. It's humor. It's everyone of the team members, everyone of the partners. We allow ourselves to laugh with everyone, and we can pick on each other. We can laugh at ourselves. That's a big part of the humorous part, and I think it's important, and people just need to show the respect of preparing themselves to come in front of a camera, but they can keep that authenticity by, it's not because like I prepped myself and I'm wearing, I don't know, like a shirt or whatsoever, that it means that I need to lose that sense of humor.
Nessa, I love that you're talking about respect, and that how we show up is respectful. And so that first off, we need to respect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so here, as I'm here and you're seeing me from here up, I just want you all to know I am wearing cobalt blue patent leather pumps. And that's important for me in terms of how I show my respect in myself. Because if I were full length, that's what I would be doing. And so there's something about it that for me, I'm not saying anyone else has to do that, but for me, as a person who loves shoes are, shoes are a happy place. I love shoes. And so that this for me is the respect to myself. And whether anyone else knows that or not, and now of course you do, but that when we respect ourselves and then we show respect for the people that we're with, we bring our authentic respect in. And as you talk about, how we are as a team, that we laugh a lot, which is just so wonderful. And that when we feel respect for ourselves, that we also communicate respect for others. When you feel that respect in your environment, and that's part of how you show up, and a really important part of how you show up. When you show up with respect for yourself and you show up with respect for others, people feel that and people know that. And that helps to develop more trust. When you're expecting and hoping that someone is going to bring their best and do great versus, oh my gosh, I hope that this isn't a clunker this time. But when you come in with that and you have that optimism, you're carrying in your mind a positive picture. It doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen, but that is part of a communication. And so it communicates, it emanates to other people. And people then, for some reason, if they're connected in this way, they also want to bring their best. And your children feel that they can go out and try harder because it's not easy. We know that. We're not saying it's easy. But that respect helps to bring trust. And when there's trust, you can say more. You can do more. You have more latitude because people understand where you're coming from inside of you.
Thank you, Dr. Ryger, on putting the emphasis on the link between respect and trust, because business and successful business, it's all about succeeding, trust worthy and trustful relationships. It's a transaction of trust between one person and another. And I was talking earlier about analyzing my COVID, life, and where is the moment where I'm the most vulnerable. It's when I'm in someone else's business that I am totally trusting them with that transaction. And it is that moment where if they're not doing things right to protect me, then I'm not protected. So I feel we are in that trust relationships every time when you go to your butcher, when you go to buy fruits and vegetables, when you go to do your nails, when you go to do your hair, you're always in a moment where if that other person is not trustworthy, they can really, really hurt you. And so that respect of yourself makes other people trust you, because there is a confidence out of that respect of yourself. It's a confidence that builds up. So I love that we're putting the link between that and being a successful business person. So this is the perfect time to bring in our guest speaker and expert. Welcome, Ania Schwartzman, founder of the Fashionologist and school psychologist at an independent school for children with language-based learning disabilities. Welcome, Ania.
Hello. Hi, ladies. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, Ania, could you tell us how you came up with the idea to build the Fashionologist?
So I've been a psychologist now for about 20 years, working with children, adolescents, adults. And so I've always enjoyed the work that I've done, but my hobbies have included, clothing and style and fashion. And it was just something that was really always important to me. And I had this incredible experience a few years ago with a friend of mine who was going through a terrible separation with her husband, and she needed a dress for her daughter's high school graduation. So while everyone was offering to take her for lunches or coffee, she asked someone for help shopping. And I said, I'm your girl. I took her to Lord & Taylor in Manhattan. I don't think it even exists anymore. And the time that we spent, not just being in the store and selecting dresses, but that experience in the dressing room where she was feeling so broken and so devastated was so amazing to me, because the skills that I was using in that room with her were really pulling from my work as a therapist more than a friend or anyone interested in style. It was really something that I hadn't expected. So we ended up getting her a dress, and I went home and I wrote up a business plan. I started my business, The Fashionologist.
That's amazing. And you realize at that moment how much of an important time it is for girls through going through their graduation, their sweet 16, and sometimes just growing up as adolescent. I have two daughters that turned this summer 11 and 13, and I know I see their body transforming every day. And I thank you for being there for that generation and helping girls go through that time with the right fashion style. So do you mainly work with adolescents, or do you work also with adults?
I actually only work right now with adults. So my work is really focused on women, and primarily women going through different transitions. I think now that includes just about everybody. Post-COVID, we're all in this crazy world and dealing with all sorts of changes. So that's my focus. Clothes to me have always had power and significance, and I take that thinking into the work that I do with everyone that I work with.
Well, first of all, I'm so happy that you're here today, and that women and fashion and shopping, that these are important pieces and can be important pieces in our lives, and not necessarily in the way that it's been portrayed in terms of just going and spending money. But what I'm thinking about is the rituals that women have about shopping. I recall going shopping with my mother. And when my mother and I would set a shopping day, we'd get in the car and we would have lunch together, and sometimes we would have dinner together. And it was part of a ritual of being together, of sharing this experience. And so there can be just so much more to it than that. It's a way of also interacting and relating, sharing, and it can be intergenerational as well. And so I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about that.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. I've had the experience of shopping my whole lifetime with my mother and my grandmother. The three of us would get in the car and we'd go to Loman's and we would spend hours and hours in that communal dressing room. And there was a sort of intimacy that happened. It wasn't just everybody doing their own thing, but there was a lot of communication and jokes and all sorts of things that were going on just in that dressing room. As you can imagine, it was all open and everybody saw each other, and if you remember. But it was an experience. And then, like you, I would also, make a day of it, and we would go for lunch, and it was more intimacy. So for families like mine that were not invested in sports or, other sorts of activities, this was our activity. This was our family time. And it was really special and important to me. In fact, I remember when Loman's shut down, I mourned it. I grieved it so much because it was like such a iconic time and place for me. But I do think that the ritual of shopping is what you're describing is really important. And part of the experience of being with somebody in a store together as their coach is that sort of feeling that I am almost replacing the friend that they used to have a long time ago. I mean, most of us in our teens and maybe even young adulthood used to go shopping with friends. It was something that we did. We would, meet up on a weekend and have brunch and then go shopping together. And it was like a fun time. I think that, as life changes and so many of us have, kids and families and obligations, the last thing in the world that you're doing is meeting a friend for a shopping excursion, but instead you're meeting them for a drink or maybe a restaurant or something or movie. So that has sort of died out and people are still missing that intimacy. So sometimes I feel like when I work with people, it's that service that I also provide, sort of the friend that they miss from long ago.
So I'm just going to throw in for a second, Neza, Ania, that there's that whole piece of it. It's like, well, how does this look? And does it look good? Does it look not so good? And then someone says, oh, why don't you try this with that? Or I saw something different. And so it becomes this little community. And it may be, and as I know you grew up, you didn't grow up here in New York, and your experience is different. And I'm sure that comes into your work as well, Ania, that there are people who have different backgrounds and different experiences, different rituals. And it's just can be such a rich moment for women.
I agree. I think that, that it can be such a rich experience. And I think that it's not just the community intimacy of it, but it's also the nature of the clothing themselves. I mean, when some woman stands in some outfit and all the ladies around her scream, oh my God, I love it. What are they reacting to? They're reacting to how that woman standing there in the outfit is suddenly glowing, or, her body language has changed. She looks so confident. She looks so strong. And everyone around her is acknowledging, like, that's it. That's the outfit. You have to wear it. So I think there's so much more that goes into it, not just the communication back and forth, but also what the clothes themselves are doing.
Ania, the significance of pivotal markers of life transitions such as divorce, kids leaving of college, being a new mom, they are the perfect moments and time to get into a deep reflection. So how do you support that? And I am sure that there is a lot to do in those times in fashion, in how can I recreate myself with this new me?
Well, I think that as we develop over the years, our style changes, right? What I used to wear in my 20s is certainly not anything I would put on today. And it's important that whatever you wear in the moment reflects who you are right now. So That's being said, I think that when you go out to purchase new items, that you're really thinking about who do you want to be today? What's important to you today? How do you want to be perceived right now? For example, when I think about the time that I was a new mom and had babies, running around the house, I wanted to be perceived as hip and young and free and independent, and so I was looking to sort of shed those mama clothes and all the, the sneakers and the sweatpants, and wanted to put something on that also said maybe sexy or attractive. That was where I was then. I think that as I've evolved in time and my kids have gotten older and I've changed as well, what I want to put out there is a lot different. So women going through different stages are looking for ways to communicate who they are right now. And sometimes they have to fake it a bit. A woman going through a big distress in their life really needs sometimes to put on something that says or sends a message that says, I'm strong and confident, even though they may not be feeling it inside, but they're using the clothes as a way to communicate what they hope others will perceive them as.
But just as a little bit of a share, I happen to experience some clothing as really art forms, that there are things that are beautifully made and that you can see the thoughtfulness that has gone into a garment. And so there can be, going to your point, that there can really be an appreciation of this as a piece of somebody's work. Right. That they've taken pride in that there's a respect for the work that you then have and can put on. And I'm also wondering, because, the fitting room can be a place of a lot of different emotions and the feelings of, well, hey, I'm putting this on now and my body isn't the 20-year-old body, that this is a different body. And so that the melding of how you're feeling, how you want to present yourself, your different moods and your different experiences. And when you just want to feel like light and fun and sometimes just more serious, how does that also, and what's your experience been about how that also comes together with how people are experiencing a changed body, whether it's a body that's changed over time, a body that's changed post childbirth? And I'd love your thoughts about that.
Well, I think that as women, that we do struggle with the challenges of, thinking about our bodies probably more than we need to or should. It's just inevitable in our culture that that's just something that's really emphasized. And so I do know that people struggle throughout their lifetimes on body changes and body image. I think where it plays out in the dressing room is that, most women will automatically want to hide the bits and pieces that they're uncomfortable with. And I think that coming from my perspective, I do understand that. I live in this world. I am sympathetic to the way that our country, our culture is. So I do understand that. But I also want them to know that, think about what it is that they're worried about, and why they're worried about it. So there's a way to think about that extra weight on your belly as not necessarily just extra fat, but it's the place of where your children were coming from, or perhaps it's a testament to the incredible new relationship you have, where they say, you're eating all the time because you're just so excited and so happy, and whatever the perspective is, the idea is how you frame what it is that they're worried about. And I think that coming into the dressing room, all those worries and challenges certainly play out. But I come from the perspective of like, let's reframe what it is that you're upset about. Let's reframe. And then obviously, I'm not going to push anyone to wear anything that doesn't make them feel strong and confident. There's ways to use clothing to minimize their the areas that they're uncomfortable with, for sure. And then to maximize what they're most comfortable with, which is really important as well.
And Ania, you're totally right. I think there is a clothing style for everyone. And the biggest struggle is when you're trying to look like someone else and you're trying to fit in the clothes of someone else. and you're not accepting your body type. You're not even looking at it. You don't even know what you look like because you're constantly obsessed with the image of others. And so there is a style that fits everyone, that can make you look feminine, strong, and sexy, depending on your culture. And also, Anya, the culture part that you're saying about here in the US, all over the world, you see women being obsessed about their bodies, but in a different way. I'll tell you a little story that I bring back from the long times that I spent in the Moroccan Sahara. Women there are obsessed about being overweight. So it's like literally they have diets for that. And they give, they have this diet for their teenagers, girls, and when they're getting ready to get married and after, because they just think that being skinny means like being unhealthy, being not glamorous, not attractive at all. And it's beautiful. And so you find out in the south of Morocco, the beginning of the Sahara, and then Mauritania, and there is a month where in Islam you fast, and they wouldn't even go through that month of, which is like a religious practice, because there is no way they're shedding pounds over that religious month. They'll find other ways to connect to religion. So there is that difference from regions to other on what is the beauty stereotype, but women are always in every culture looking at their bodies in a way or another, and trying to fit in a certain stereotype. What I love about New York is that freedom that we have in fashion styles. And I think when we live in New York, we should really be blessed with that, because fashion styles can be very strict in different parts of the world. And New York is that place where you can put something totally extravagant, something that you took from your grandmother's closet, that you got from a thrift shop, that you got from your, like teenage daughter's closet, and you can put it, and people will be like, wow, it's just that the vibrancy of the city allows you that. So, Ania, what are you finding now in your work with your clients that they hadn't to deal with in the past pre-COVID? What are their new challenges?
Well, I think that what people are really struggling with right now is really what to wear every day. As we're moving past the feeling of uncertainty and feeling out of control and just wanting to stay home, hunker down, and feel safe, I think people are starting to peak out a little bit and realize that, this is our new now. This is where we're at, and we need to continue and move forward. So what do I wear? I'm hearing a lot of people ask questions, like, how do I show up for work on Zoom when for the longest time people have been showing up literally with baseball hats or their Lululemon athletic gear, which would never fly in the boardroom. So people are really confused and anxious about how to show up for the new now. And what I've been also hearing is that people are also concerned about, the idea of like keeping a uniform. For example, teachers that are going back into school feeling like they need to wear something that's almost disposable. I'm hearing that they are relating to doctors in a lot of ways, doctors who wear scrubs so they could just take it off at the end of the day and then wash them up. So I'm hearing that teachers are thinking like this now. What can I wear that's almost disposable, put it out in the laundry that night and wear something fresh and new. So there's all sorts of thinking related to the pandemic that we've been experiencing, and it's truly fascinating.
I'm thinking about, kind of this space of casual versus, casual and sloppy.
Right.
That casual can be casual, and that casual isn't necessarily sloppy. And I mean, everybody needs to be sloppy sometimes, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm wondering if, kind of how you're experiencing that, given that certainly attire has been much more casual over this period of time.
Well, I've actually been finding it truly fascinating because, as you both mentioned earlier, that, I've always come from the assumption that when you show up, you're showing up in your best way because you're also being respectful to the others out there, right? And what I've been feeling is that those people who show up on these calls, on these important calls, in these sloppy ways, are not being respectful in a lot of ways. And I don't know who mandated this, who said that it was going to be okay to do like this. I think what we're missing right now is some kind of guidance from like the people up above to tell others, like, it's time to pull it together. I don't think that we're hearing that yet right now. And when I push for some answers from people, the leaders in, the corporations, why aren't you advising others to, pull it together? A lot of them are feeling really uncomfortable with the idea that, a lot of the workers are managing homeschooling and dogs passing by and all the different things that are going on. So they're feeling like they need to be more sensitive to that other person on the other side of the call. That being said, I think there needs to be more guidance. I think that, sloppy was fine enough if you were really having a hard time managing. But I think that by now, most of us have sort of pulled it together in some capacity. We figured out a space to work in. We figured out how to get the kids at least some of the time away. We're more understanding when there are disruptions and all that. We don't react as much as we used to in the beginning. So I think that it's time now to really make an effort. And when it comes to Zoom, there's no question that it's been more casual, and it's probably going to continue casual, but it needs to be more elevated casual. So I don't think anyone's going to expect a man to sit across from you with a tie and suit, but certainly a press shirt. Get rid of that Zoom shirt that's been hanging on their chair for the last 6 months. Get something new. Something more put together, and women also need to make an effort not to wear their exercise clothes or anything that says that they've just been schlepping around the house, but really to make an effort in some way. Certainly going to be more casual. People don't want to sit around in their dresses and their heels. It's just not comfortable. And certainly they can for short periods of time. But most women I talk to say, listen, I'm in front of the computer all day. I do not want to be wearing my work dress. And that's fine. So make investments in your tops, change up your accessories, carry some scarves around so that you can have, some color. But it's important, I think, to certainly transition from that sloppy to the more business casual, pandemic casual, whatever you want to call it.
Thank you, Ania. Dr. Ryger, can we tell the women that are listening to us that if they do this, they make that effort, they will actually feel better. They will feel more confident. And can you remind us what we talked about a few episodes ago when we talked about women are the ones at the forefront of society change now, and you cannot be that champion if you are not putting a priority on yourself. And I love that example that I think we should remind everyone on, wiping the boards and other things before taking care of ourselves, and it should be reversed. Let's take care of yourself and then start your day.
Yeah, I remember that, Neza, of where are women putting themselves on their calendars. And so in terms of self-care, in terms of wellness, and that we, I don't think we can say enough really that self-care is not self-indulgence. That self-care, taking care of yourself, is absolutely essential. You anchor part of your world. And you need to take care of yourself. You need to invest in yourself to take care of yourself, to be able to be there for yourself and be able to be there for others. But what I've seen with people I work with and with people I know, it's like, well, after whatever it is, after the laundry is done, after I buy the apples, and I've asked women like straight out, are you as important as a pound of apples? Are you as important as a pound of apples? Because somehow or other, the apples seem to be coming first over and over again. And so how do we put importance on that? And I'm not saying that women don't feel that they are important, because you can feel that you are important, but you also have to take action on that. You have to activate that. You have to put that into motion, put that caring into motion. I mean, if you talked about your kids, for example, and you said, oh, I care tremendously about my kids, but they were walking around, their hair wasn't their face is not washed, they didn't eat. You'd want to take that care and put it into action. And you need to take that care for yourself and put it into action. Doesn't mean that you have to be a makeup artist, a fashionista, a fashionologist, but you can be you and taking care of you and putting yourself somewhere as a priority on that.
Thank you, Dr. Ryger. Thank you, Ania Schwartzman, for joining us today. It's so difficult every time to close those episodes. The conversation is so exciting. Ania, we would love to have you more involved in the Join May Chat community. Please, join us, come, to give more advices to our members. Dr. Ryger, such a pleasure to be co-hosting this show with you. Everyone, thank you. You were watching Speak Your Mind with Dr. Ryger. You can find us every Monday on our YouTube channel. Dr. Ryger?
Yes, and our takeaway for today.
Yes.
Our takeaway for today is to show up with respect for yourself, and start there. And that also, as Ania's been telling us today, that your fashionista, your way of showing up really says something, is a strong communication. And so take time to communicate what you want to communicate. And as always, come join us next time. We always have a seat saved for you.